Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Stitch Sessions. It is March, finally, and a new month means we are unveiling a new gift of crochet. So in the month of March, we know that a lot of people start thinking about spring coming on and maybe starting to tackle some spring cleaning, maybe even changing some of our decor to be a little bit more spring-like. So March's gift of crochet is a spring bath mat, and here it is in these really gorgeous springtime coral colors. So as you can see, it's made up of two granny squares, but they are completely solid in shape. So in this tutorial, we are going to show you how to make these squares so that they're completely solid, and attach them and then create a border around them to create this wonderful, really gorgeous bath mat. Of course, you can do it in any color you like, any color scheme, but what's really important is that you use 100% cotton yarn. This is great for moisture absorption, especially if you're using it like me as a bath mat or any type of rug actually. And we'll get into rug making in future as well. But 100% cotton is where you want to go. And I think you're going to have a blast making this really gorgeous springtime bath mat. So let's just get to it. Okay guys, let's get started. In order to make our bath mat, you're going to need about 400 grams of 100% cotton. Now this will depend on how long you make your mat or rug. And I have a few different colors here. I'm using the Bernat, the Handy Crafter. And so this is a nice big 400 gram ball. A lot of people for a rug would work with two strands held together. In my case, because my rug is going to be a bit more decorative, I did not do that. So I just used a single strand as it is. And it was just under about 400 grams. Okay, so I've got, I decided to use 3 different colors here. So I've got this Bernat Coral Rose color. This one is the chamomile, and then this is the white, okay? And I've already made one side of it here. So this is what it looks like. And this measures 16 inches across and high, okay? So I need to make 2 of these to create the length that I'm looking for my rug. And then, of course, you're going to have the border going all the way around it. So as you can see, I did not use 2 strands, so it's not very thick. Because this is just for powder room, it's more decorative than it is utilitarian. But you can do whatever you like, of course. And you can see that it's got this nice solid granny square pattern, which I absolutely adore. So let's get you started on making this. For this project, I am using a 5mm hook here, which is the recommended hook for this yarn. And I did that because I wanted to keep an average gauge and slightly snugger stitches. You will need a darning needle for the end, and of course a pair of scissors as always. And you may need your handy measuring tape. Just to check things out, because that's a great thing about this project. It is very customizable to whatever space that you are looking to create this for. So, and I love, love, love these colors. With spring on its way, it's just really inspiring. So we're going to start with a cinch circle. So some people started traditional granny square with the chain 5 or chain 4. And if you want to do that, absolutely go for it. Nothing wrong with it at all. I just really like the look of this closed in square with no gaps there. So I am going to use a cinch circle for mine. So you're just going to create a loop there, insert your hook, pull through, and then we want to secure that with a chain 1. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to chain 2 more. 1 and 2, and this is going to create the height of a double crochet stitch. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 double crochets into the cinch circle. So we're going to yarn over, insert. Oops, watch out for your short tail there. So this first row is always the trickiest anytime we're doing granny squares or circle work of any kind, because everything is still kind of flopping around a little bit. But once we get past the first round, it'll be smooth sailing. Okay, so we've done 2 more double crochets. So remember, this first chain 3 counts as 1, so we have 3 double crochets. Now for granny square, normally what you would do is chain 2 to create a corner space. What we're going to do is something a little bit different because we don't want spaces. Okay, so we're going to do an extended double crochet. I think some people also call this a long double crochet. So you're going to yarn over as usual. You'll insert into the circle, pull up a loop. So you have 3 loops like a traditional double crochet. But now you're going to yarn over and only pull through 1 loop. Okay, whoops, careful not to split your yarn. So you'll still have the 3 loops on your hook. And now what you're going to do is you're going to yarn over and resolve this like a normal double crochet. You pull through 2 and then pull through 2. So you can definitely see that it's creating a taller height there. Okay, so this is what we're going to use to create our corners. We start with 1 of these, and now the next stitch will be a triple crochet. That means that you're going to yarn over 2 times, insert into the cinch circle, pull through, and now you're going to have 4 loops on your hook. You will then yarn over, pull through the first 2, that will leave 3 loops on your hook. Then you're going to yarn over, pull through the next 2, that will leave you with 2, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through the last 2. So we're pulling through loops 3 times. That's why we call it a triple. And now you can definitely see that our side and our corner is taking shape here. Okay, so the triple crochet will be the peak of our corner. And now we have to work our way down. So we're going to go back to doing a long or extended double crochet. So you will yarn over once, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, but only pull through 1 loop. Okay, 3 still remain. Now you'll yarn over and you'll pull through the first 2 here, and then you'll yarn over and pull through the last 2. So it's probably not looking too recognizable, but you can see that it went up and now it's starting to come down a bit. So it's definitely starting to look like a corner. So you've done 3 double crochets and then our corner stitches, which is a long double crochet or extended double crochet, a triple crochet, and another extended double crochet. So we now have a side and a corner. We need to repeat this 3 more times to give us the full square. So I'm going to do this next side with you again. So we're going to now do 3 double crochets to create our next side. So just as usual, yarn over and insert. Okay. And this gets really easy as we move on to the next rounds. So there's 2. And there is, whoop, it's a thing with cotton, is it? Yay. Gotta do that again. So this is our 3rd one. And our last one here. Okay, so now we're up to another corner. So this means we have to do an extended double crochet. So you'll yarn over, insert and pull up a loop like usual. When you yarn over, you're only going to pull through 1 loop at the beginning. Okay, 3 loops remain. Now you'll yarn over and pull through 2. 2 loops remain, yarn over and pull through 2. So we're starting to gain height here. Now you can really see this first corner is taking shape. Okay, and now the peak of our corner needs a triple crochet, so we yarn over 2 times, insert and pull up a loop, yarn over. I'm going to pull through the first 2, 3 loops remain, yarn over, pull through the next 2, 2 loops remain, yarn over and pull through the last 2. So there you have it. So now we have one side in a corner, the second side, and this corner. Now this corner doesn't look like much yet because we need to create the next side. So I'm going to let you continue with that. So we need to create another side and a corner, another side and a corner. Okay, so remember, the sides always consist of a shell stitch, also known as 3 double crochets. The corners are an extended double crochet, a triple, and an extended. So they're all done in clusters of 3. Okay, so if I were to continue on here, I'm just going to do my usual 3 double crochets. Okay, so if you need to, make sure to stop and pause the video and go back. And I will meet you just at our last corner there. Okay. Okay, so we're coming up to the last corner here. You can see that a nice square shape is taking hold. Now, keep in mind that in a traditional granny square, the most amount of stitches in your center generally is 12. But because we're actually filling each corner space with stitches, we're actually going to get a total of 24 stitches into the center. So it's more stitches than on average you would have going into the center. So it will be fairly snug and you might not close the gap perfectly. Like in this case, you can see that there is still a tiny little spot there, but there's a lot of stitches centered in the center here. But I'm still pretty happy with that. So it's just a little something to keep in mind. There's nothing wrong if you see that it starts to squish in or buckle. That's totally normal. Also, the fact that we're using this cotton yarn, which just has a bit of a sturdier, thicker feel to it, will create that look. So nothing to stress about, totally normal. So now we're going to create our last corner, which means we're going to create an extended double crochet. We yarn over, insert, pull through 1 only to start, then we yarn over, pull through 2 and pull through 2. Then to create the peak of that corner, we yarn over twice for a triple. So most likely you've already done this, but I like to review and repeat for anybody that needs it. So we're pulling through 3 times, and now we're coming down the corner, 1 more stitch in the center there, and you can definitely see that stitches are really getting snug in there. So we'll pull through 1, 2, and then 2. Okay, so now you can really see our square has been formed. Now before we slip stitch here, we want to now pull our short tail to, to kind of snuggle in, and you're going to have to give it a little tug there. There we go. So now that our center is closed in as much as it can, because again, you've got 24 stitches in the center there, but there we have our solid square. Now with a traditional square, if you weren't changing colors, what you would do is find the top of your chain 3, which is actually right here because the chain 1 is snuggled on the bottom, and you would slip stitch. Okay, and in a traditional granny square you'd have to slip stitch over to the corner, but because everything is solid, you wouldn't need to do that in this case. So for example, if you would like to do So actually, let me just take this first side here. So in this case, what I did is I changed colors every row in the beginning. So I just snipped off my yarn and I started again. And sometimes I started in the corner, sometimes I started in the center. But as I continued up, I do have other rows where I kept the color the same. So if you wish actually to just keep it all the same color all the way through, you would not have to do anything here other than you would just start by chaining 3. Okay, to create the height of a double crochet because you've slip stitched into the side here. So remember, we have 3 double crochets that create the side, and then you're going to hit your corner. So at this point, you would technically have 5 stitches along a side and 1 stitch, which is your triple, that sits right at the corner. So because we've just slip stitched here, and hopefully this is not too confusing for you guys, and I'm using white, I realize. So this was our corner. This was our extended double crochet, but this now becomes part of the side. So this will be added to the 3 that already sit on the side. So now on each side, I have 1, I have my chain 3, which is the second one, that's 2. Then we have 3, 4, and 5 is an extended double crochet there. And then this one is the triple that sits in the corner, and we don't count that as the side. So each side now has 5 stitches on the side with the triples always sitting right at the peak of the corner. So because of that, I've chained 3, that counts as 1. So I would continue on and I would just, now be careful because when you attach the chain 3, the top of this stitch gets hidden here. And we'll talk more about that when we go through. So then I would just double crochet as usual. So that's 2, that's 3, and that's 4. Now this is now the top of our extended double crochet. Okay, but what we're going to do, because it's part of the side now, I'm just going to insert a regular double crochet. Okay, there we have it there. So that's normally what you would do, and then you would hit the corner, and then into the top of the triple crochet is we're going to work our corner stitches. Now because we are going to change colors, I'm not going to chain 3. And in fact, I am not going to use a slip stitch because I would like to have a little bit more of a uniform join. So I just took this out. So I have my last loop sitting here. I'm going to snip my yarn and I'm going to use my favorite method, which is that seamless join, or the magic join, some people call it. So I'm just going to pull that loop right through. So I'm just going to pull this loop right through. Okay, and then I'm going to thread my needle. And so, oops, get that tail out of the way. So what I'm going to do here is I am still going to find the top of that chain 3 where we were previously. And I'm going to insert my yarn needle and I'm going to pull this through. And many of you that have seen other tutorials of mine know how much I use this method. So you just pull it snug, not too snug. And so now I'm going to go through the top and down the center of this stitch, coming out the bottom. And so when I pull through, I just make it nice and snug, and it looks exactly like the other stitches. And this is what I love. I can't say enough about this type of joining. So there we go. Now you can't really tell where the ending is. Love that. So then I just go in the back and I just make sure that I just attach it to the next stitch beside it. And I just kind of want to insert, and again, not pulling too tightly. I want to make sure that this gets securely woven in here. Okay. And there we have it. So then you can, at this point, I would probably recommend, because there's so many stitches in here, this can loosen up. I would recommend sewing this, weaving this tail in and really securing it so that your center stays nice and consistent. Okay, so go ahead and do that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to introduce our next color here. So the first few rounds, we're going to change colors. And I did a total of 15 rounds for my particular mat here because it gave me 16 inches. I needed a length of 40 inches. So 2 of these squares at 16 inches each gives me 32 inches, and then there will be a border on each side of approximately 4 inches. So weave in your ends, and then we will introduce our next color. Okay guys, so here we go. We've done our first round, which gives us our square here. And so you can see all the corners are solid, all the sides are solid. Okay, so now we're going to introduce a new color, which is going to be our chamomile color here. Just take that out. And so you can do this one of a couple ways, and I'm going to show you both ways. You can join in the corners, or you can start somewhere in the center. And a lot of times you'll see that I will start somewhere in the center because I feel it just hides the starting stitch a little bit more. But we're going to start off by starting in the corner. Okay, so we will begin with a slip knot. So this color is just a little bit darker than the white color. So I like doing this particular project on a gradient. So you can see it starts with the white and then it kind of goes into this chamomile and then we go into the coral. And so that's the effect that I wanted. And as always, you can design it in any which way you like. So we're going to start with a slip knot. And so we're going to start this first example in the corner. So you're really going to have to just pull apart your stitches there and find out where your sides are and where your corners are. So here's a corner here, and I just want to identify that my triple crochet is right there. So sorry guys, I realize this is white and it's going to be a bit tricky to see, but if you're ever unsure, you can really tell a triple by the fact that it's going to have 2 of these loops stranded across, okay? And you can always see that it's, when you pull it, it's always going to be the taller one. And so remember that the top of that stitch is always the loop that sits just to the right of it, okay? So we're going to insert our hook into there. And we're just going to secure it with a slip knot. Okay, so now we need to chain up to create the height of a triple crochet. So usually that means we chain 4. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so this gives us the height of a triple crochet. So now we're going to do into the same stitch. We're here to create a corner. Okay, now I chose to start right at the center. So we're going down this side of the corner. So that means we're going to do an extended double crochet. So we'll yarn over, insert, pull through, back into that same stitch. So when we yarn over, we're only pulling through 1, and then we'll yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over and pull through the last 2. Okay, so right now it might almost look like they're the same height, but they are not. So we've done a chain 4 in the corner and a extended double crochet. Now, a lot of people will do the full corner right at the start, but again, I like to kind of place a lot of the seams in the center of stitches. So when I come back around, I will remember that I have to place an extended double crochet back into this corner to finish off the corner stitches. And don't worry if that sounds confusing, because I will meet you here to show you that for sure. But anyway, so we've done our chain 4 and our extended double crochet into this corner. Now the next stitch actually belongs to the extended double crochet of the bottom row. This is now part of the side of the square. So what we're going to do here is we're going to yarn over, and we are going to insert our hook, and we're going to place 2 double crochets into this same stitch. So it's an increase stitch. We're going to place 2 into the same. So there's 1 double crochet, go back into that same stitch, and we're going to place a second double crochet. And so what this does is this really helps to make our square sit flat. Okay, so that's going to help us go around the corner. So again, right in that corner stitch, we did chain 4, extended double crochet, and into the top of the extended double crochet of the previous round, we're going to do 2 double crochets. Okay, so now we're going to just continue along the side as usual, and we're going to place 1 double crochet into the top of each of the next 3 stitches, which is actually our shell stitch of the bottom round. So we insert, and I'm just also going over my short tail there. That's 1, and this is 2, and now this is 3. And now the next stitch is actually the extended double crochet of the previous row. So we're going to do the same thing here that we did in this one, as you can see. We're going to place 2 double crochets into that same stitch. So this helps us round out a corner, which is funny to say round out because we're trying to make our corners stay definite. Okay, so this now helps us extend the length of our side. So our side originally was 3 stitches, and now it's increased to 7 stitches. Okay, so these 2 are part of the corner, they do not count. So we added 2 here, 1, 2, we went with our original 3, 4, 5, 6, and we added 2 more here, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. My apologies, I can't count for whatever reason. So now this side has 7 stitches, okay? And so that brings us to the triple crochet on the bottom, and I'm just going to pull it apart so I can see. So anytime you get to the apex of the corner, which is the top of your triple crochet, we're going to do the following, okay? We're going to do 1 extended double crochet. So we're going to pull through 1 first, then pull through 2, then pull through 2. Into that same stitch, we're going to do a triple crochet. That means we're going to yarn over twice, insert into the same stitch, and then you're going to pull through 2 once, pull through the next 2, careful not to split your yarn. That's a second time, and then you're going to pull through 3 times, okay? And the corner's not finished. We have to go back in and do an extended double crochet back into that same stitch there. So you'll yarn over, insert, pull through 1 only. Then we resolve as usual by pulling through 2 and then pulling through 2. So every time you get to a corner stitch, which is the top of your triple, this is what you will do from here on out for every single round, okay? So you will do an extended double, a triple, and an extended double. So if I take that out, It's now going to help your sides lay flat, okay? And I know this looks like, what is going on here? But when we round this side, it's going to make a lot more sense, okay? And then each side increases its stitches. Each flat side will increase its stitches by 4 because on each side we're always increasing with 2 there and then the extended. So I'm going to show you again. So that's side 1 and a corner. And now we're going to continue on. So if you pull this apart here, so this is the triple crochet. This is the extended triple crochet. And you can see this is where we slip stitch underneath. So in the extended double crochet of the previous round, we are always going to put 2 double crochets because, again, this will help us smoothly transition around this corner. So that's 1 and that's 2. Okay, there we go. So now that's really showing how we're coming smoothly around the corner, and it's going to help your square to sit nice and flat. And don't forget that there's also many different ways of creating looks like this. So there's lots of other fabulous videos out there and things like that. This is just the way that I found that I personally like to do it. If you like to see a much more solid square. So yeah, there's lots of great stuff out there. Okay, so now we're back to the top of our shell stitch, which is our 3 double crochets. Now this part might get a little wonky because we slip stitched in here. Okay, so this is a double crochet in here, and this is the top of our chain 3. So see that right there? That is the top. This is the top of our chain 3. So we're just going to do a regular double crochet. Okay, that's 1. And now the top of the next stitch, and this is where it can get a little bit funky sometimes, is so the top of this stitch is sitting, let me just grab this, is sitting right here. So because it's a join, it can sometimes get snuggled down and miss. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll do exactly this. I'll just take the yarn needle and just kind of remind it that it needs to stay open here so that when I go in, it just helps it out a little bit. I really want to, there we go. And then I just resolve it as usual. And look at that. Love it. And then we need to do one more into the next stitch, which is right there. There we go. So now you can really see how it's coming around the corners. And I love these colors. Actually, this would be nice for a baby's room too, if you're doing a rug. And again, a lot of people would do 2 strands together for a more durable rug, depending on where you're using it in the house. I'm going to do it for a powder room, so it's definitely going to be much more decorative than anything. And the beautiful thing about cotton is you just throw it in the wash and you're good to go. Okay, so we are now coming up to an extended double crochet from the previous round. So we always want to do an increase here, so that's 2 double crochets into that same stitch. So I'll insert, and here's 2. And that will take us to the next stitch, which is your triple crochet, and we're going to work the corner again, which is an extended double crochet, pull through 1 only, 2, then 2, then we do a triple, 2, pull through 2, and pull through 2, and then we do an extended all into that same stitch. 1, 2, and 2. And then the very next stitch is always another increase because it's an extended down below. So we're just going to go to a double crochet and do 2 double crochets into that stitch there. Okay, so as you can see, we've come around this next corner. So now you can really see that it's taking a lovely solid square shape. So here is the formula here. In the top of every double crochet, you will do a double crochet. When you get close to the corners, so in the previous round, when you get to the top of your extended double crochet, you will always do an increase stitch. So this means that you will do 2 double crochets into that stitch. So before you hit the corner, the last one before the corner is an increase, which gives you 2 double crochets. Into the apex of the corner, you will always do an extended double crochet, a triple, and an extended double crochet, all into that stitch. And in the very next stitch, it's 2 double crochets. So in total, it takes 7 stitches to go around the corner of a square nicely. You've got 1, 2 with the doubles, 3, 4, 5 in the apex of the corner, 6, 7 with the doubles that come around. Okay, and then you continue on from here. So the next 3 are the shell stitch. So you would do 1 double crochet into the top of each of these stitches, 2 double crochets into the top of the extended, and here is our corner stitch. So that means we would do an extended, a triple, and an extended. And in the very next stitch, we're going to do 2 doubles. And you continue down the way there. If you need to pause the video and go back and watch again this corner and this corner, go for it. And as you continue to do more and more rounds, you're going to get really good at these corners. Okay, so go ahead and come around this next corner here, and I'm going to meet you just as we come up to our final corner. Because remember, when we started in this first stitch here, we didn't do a full corner stitch, right? We chained 4. We started right in the center where the triple crochet would be. So I'm just going to take you through how we're going to round out and connect our second round. So I'll meet you guys there. Okay, and here we are back to our final corner here. So I've just done the 3 double crochets going across, and now I'm at the top of my extended, I have 1 more to do. 1 more double crochet. And now I'm at the top of my extended double crochet. So I'm going to do 2 double crochets into that same stitch. 1, 2. And now I need to finish my original corner. So we know that a corner has an extended, a triple, and an extended double crochet. So we need to do an extended double crochet in here because this chain 4 counts as a triple. So we're going to yarn over, insert, pull through, and work an extended double crochet. And now we're going to slip stitch to the top. So you can see that we've got our nice square shape. And of course, there's always going to be a couple little peekaboos here in the corners, but what I'm aiming for is not to have those larger gaps that a traditional granny square would have in this particular project. So here, I'm going to do my usual. I'm just going to pull up, and I'm going to fasten off, and I'm going to pull that loop straight through, and I'm going to do my usual join. Right there. And then I go back into the top of the next stitch, and pull through, and just nice and snug, not too tight. And there we have it. Okay, so I'm going to lay this flat so you can see here. So we now have this really nice square, solid, flat, nicely flat square shape taking shape here. Now don't worry right now, it is kind of looking a little bit buckly, and that's because again there's a lot of stitches going on here. So as we do more, and in subsequent rounds as we get a little higher, we will eventually drop this increase here just before the corner. That will depend how big you want to go. But like I said, I did 15 rounds. So let's move on to round 3. I'm going to do this one more time with you, and the formula will be the same. You can join in the corner, but in round 3, I'm going to show you how I can join sometimes in the center. So we've got a join in the corner here, which is fine. It sits snugly in there. But I like to change it up every couple of rounds just so that you don't see a definite seam running through. Okay, so we're going to introduce now our coral color. It's so pretty. I love this combination. And as usual, actually make sure you weave these in first. I like doing this when I have a lot of color changes just so that it doesn't get mixed up and get distracted. So let's do that, and then I'll meet you up with the coral color. Okay, round 3, we're going to begin again with a slip knot with our new color. And I am going to choose a stitch somewhere in the center of my side here. So I'm going to start here. And because these are all double crochets, oops, I will only need to chain 3. So I'm going to slip stitch to join, okay, to secure my yarn, and then I will chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm just going to work over my tail here as well. So we're going to do a double crochet into the next stitch. And you can start anywhere along this side that you like. I just randomly chose a stitch here. And now that we're out of the center, the stitches are a bit more spread out, so they're a little easier to see, which is what I really like. So we're going to yarn over and double crochet into the next stitch. And that way, as you get closer to the corners, you'll be able to see. So we're not quite there. Actually, we're just about in the corner. So see how this was an increase? We're just going to do 1 double crochet into the tops of those because now they're part of the side. So we always do an increase at the top of the half double. So now we are right in the corner, and as you can see, there are these 3 stitches into the top of the previous triple. So that means this is an extended double crochet, so we're going to increase there. We're going to place 2 double crochets. Now I will preface the fact that, you know, depending on your yarn, sometimes doing this increase right in the first few rows here, these 2 double crochets, might be a bit too much. So for some people, they may actually just continue and do 1 double crochet here. They might not do the increase. They might just keep it strictly to the triple crochet. But for me, I found that this, with this particular yarn, this works just fine. So I have an increase, which is 2 double crochets in the top of the extended. And now I'm at the top of the triple crochet of the previous round. So that means we're going to do 3 stitches into this stitch here. So we're going to insert, and we're going to do an extended double crochet. So we're going to pull through 1, and hopefully you know the drill by now. And now we're going to do a triple, yarn over twice, insert, pull through 2, pull through 2, careful not to split your yarn. and pull through 2. And now we need to do another extended, which means we're going to pull through 1 first, then 2, then 2. Okay, and on the other side of our corner, we need to do an increase here, which is 2 double crochets. So we go up the corner by increasing the height of our stitches, and then we go down the other side by decreasing back down to the size of a double crochet. So there we go. So again, we've come around a corner. Pretty good, huh? Okay, so now it's just double crochets all the way across. So in this case, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 double crochets here. Okay, so we have 1, 2, and 7. Okay. So in between the increases, the double crochet increases, in the previous row we had 5 stitches. In the next row we have 7 stitches and an increase. So that's basically, you're going to increase the number of stitches in your sides by 2 with each round. So in this case, the increase was there. See the 2 double crochets? It's a little easier to see now with the darker yarn. So there's an increase. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now we're going to do another increase. And if you pull that apart, you can see we're in the corner here, and that is the top of an extended double crochet. So we're going to do 2 double crochets into that corner. Okay, so with each round, you're going to increase the number of stitches between your increases by 4. Okay, so in the previous round, you can see our increase is there. There's 2 doubles in 1, and our next one is right here. So we had 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3 between there. In the next round, you can now clearly see with the darker yarn, there's an increase here and an increase here, and we now have 7 stitches in between. So the next row up, if you add 4, will be 11 stitches in between each increase. So that's now should help you understand how many stitches you should have along each side, and each full corner will have about 7 stitches, because if you count the increase, the 3 stitches involved in creating the apex of the corner and the other 2, that's going to give you 7 stitches. Okay, I know there's a lot of math involved here. So let's take you around this next corner. So we're at the top of this triple crochet. So an extended, and then a triple, pull through 2, and pull through 2, and then another extended into the same stitch, don't forget. Oops. See, be careful not to split your yarn. That's the thing with cotton yarn. It's really great for sturdy projects, but sometimes you just got to watch the splittiness of it. And now we're going to come out of it by doing an increase into the very next stitch, which is 2 double crochets. Okay, so there you go. So that's why a lot of times I do like to start somewhere in the center, because this way it keeps the corners looking really smooth and uniform. I've been known to alternate in some projects, like in one row I'll start in the corner and the next row I'll start in the side. If I'm doing a project, of course, that starts with changing colors a lot. So there you have it, guys. I'm going to let you go. You now are armed with the formula. I will meet you just at the end of this third row just to kind of go over how I would seam up in the side. So we've already seen the corner and then we've seen the side. So I'll meet you back here in a few. Just stop and pause the video And if you need to go back and see something again, definitely do that and enjoy. This was such a fun project to work on, and I know that you're going to have fun with it too, especially if you get some really nice springy colors. So I'll meet you at the end of the side there. So I'll meet you at the end of round 3. And here we are coming up to the end of round 3. Just love that. Just love those colors. Okay, so now we do have one more stitch left because remember this chain 3 belongs to that stitch. So there is still a stitch left here. So we are going to insert and finish off that last stitch. And now if you're unsure, if you think, did I do an extra one? Remember that in round 3, we should have 7 stitches between each of our increases. So there's an increase here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there's our next increase. So we are A-okay. So then what we're going to do is, if you're using the method I use, we're going to snip our yarn. Again, you are more than welcome to, oops, how about that? I got a little excited. So there is absolutely nothing wrong with doing this, and I'll show you. Just finding the top of your chain 3 and slip stitch to join and pulling all the way through. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. Especially going to keep doing rounds. That'll get buried in there. But I just like to do it because I find sometimes when you slip stitch it, it makes it a little trickier to find that stitch for the next round. So that's just my personal preference, but there is absolutely nothing wrong with slip stitching to join. So I'm just going to do quick little join here to the top. And usually when I'm doing that, I actually want to try and pick up both loops of that chain. And that just gives it a much nicer finish. There we go. And then in the back, because see when I do that, see how each stitch has a loop that you can kind of go through. But when you do that, see this one's missing the top loop there, sorry, the bottom. So see how when you insert into here, there's actually a bottom loop here. But this join here has nothing. So it's an empty space here. So I always make sure that when I come through here, I always kind of reattach through the bottom, the side here. So that when I go to work that stitch later, see, it's got a loop just like every other stitch there. Okay, so there you have it, guys. The solid square, a granny square. Now, as I was mentioning before, you might notice that this is starting to kind of buckle a little bit, and I didn't have that issue with the other one, but I think what's happening is I am stitching a little bit looser in this round, and so it's creating the stitches to bunch up a little bit. So what you can do to resolve a situation like this, like if your gauge is a bit too loose or even too tight, depending on the yarn that you're using, what I would do probably in the next round, just to relax it a little bit, is instead of this increase on either side of the corner, I would not increase. I would just do 1 double on each side instead of 2 for the next round. And that will definitely flatten this right out. And of course, later when you throw it in the wash or block it, this will even itself out. So this is the basis of this mat. I went ahead and did 15 rows. So that's what I'm going to do for this one to match this one here. Okay, so you can see that it gave me a nice little well, not so little, but it gave me 16 inches across. And so I changed it. So I started with 1 row of each color. And then the next time I came to white, which will be the next round in this one, instead of doing 1 round, I did 2. Then I did my chamomile and my coral. Then the next time I came to a set of 3, the next time I came to the white, I did 3 rows of white. Then I did the chamomile color, then the coral, and then lastly I did 4 rows or rounds of white. So I definitely, for me, I wanted white to be the dominating color. But like I said, you can do whatever you want. If you want to do 3 rounds of each color and give it that different effect, you can do that too. So I am going to set you loose here. Finish your square for however wide you would like it. And in this design, we need to make 2. And then I will meet you back up here when we're going to seam these 2 together and then do the border around. And we will be off to the races with this fabulous project. Okay, and here we are, 15 rounds later. This is one side of it, and right next to it is the other side. So when you look at them side by side, this is how we're going to put them together. So I made sure that the stitches are the same amount for each one. And actually, once I got to this white section here, I went a couple of rounds without the increase next to the corner stitches. So whereas sometimes we did 2 doubles, like right there, there's 2 doubles, and then your extended double, a triple, an extended double, and then another increase. There's a couple of rounds where I did not have that increase on each corner just to even things out and allows it to lay flat. But the formula, if you wanted to keep it the same, does work, as you can see, and you just have to lay it flat, stretch it out. And now we are ready to sew these 2 pieces together. So I'm going to take you through that. So I have gotten my yarn here. I've cut an extra long piece. And so what I'm going to do is make sure that these line up properly. So this is the right side facing up. So what I'm going to do is I am going to turn these, place these one on top of the other so that the wrong sides are facing out. So the right sides are facing in. And what I want to do is I want to identify the apex, I call it the apex stitch, the ones right at the tip of the corner. So if we look closely here, we can tell that this is right in the corner. And so this middle stitch would be the triple crochet, and these on either side would be the extended double crochet. And we can tell that because they are coming out of the same stitch. So what we're going to do is find the top of that stitch and place our needle through there. And I am going through the complete stitch. So I know there's been some work that you've seen me go in the back loops or the front loops or outside loops only. But for this project, it's going to be a rug, and I want it to be a little bit sturdier. So I'm going through the full stitch, which means both of the top loops. And then I'm going to identify this one here. So that's the triple crochet there. And I'm going to insert through the very top of that stitch there. Just making sure that I've got the right one. That is it. There we go. That's the whole stitch there. So now I know corner-wise that they are together. So I'm just going to pull my yarn through. And I'll leave a little bit of a tail, and that's just going to allow me to just tie a knot, and I like to tie a couple of them just to get it nice and secure. And then when we do our border, this we'll work over this here. Okay, so once we've got that secured, we are going to now just sew one side of this square together. So what happens is we just want to attach these so this becomes one long triangle. So it's pretty easy. We just want to make sure that all the stitches match up nicely with each other. So we know that we've identified the triple crochet on each side and we've secured them together. So now we're just going to find the very next stitch, which is the extended double crochet right there, and into, and make sure we do get the top and not the side, into the top of that stitch. We'll just pick up a stitch, and then we have to make sure that we've got the right one there. And so we're going to go into the top of this one here, which is right there. And we're just going to use a simple whip stitch. I mean, you can use any type of stitching you like, but I find that the whip stitch works just nicely. So I'm going to go into the next stitch, which is right there, and find the next stitch beside it and pull through. And you want it to be snug, but you don't want it to be too tight because then it's going to buckle. Okay, so you're just going to now continue on doing this all the way down until you get to the very last stitch, which should be into the triple crochet of that corner there on the other side. Okay. And I have 53 stitches in total from one corner to the other, and that includes counting the triple crochet at this point to the triple crochet on the other point. So depending on how many rounds you did, and like I said, I did 15 rounds on top of my center square here. So that gave me 53 stitches all the way across. So whatever your number is, just make sure that they are even and equal each other out from one side to the other. So go ahead and finish whip stitching your two sides, or your one side together, I should say, to each other. And then I will meet you back here when we are going to talk about how to crochet a border around our mat. Okay, and here we have it. I've just finished weaving in the one side here. So this is what we have right now. And you're going to look at it and go, what's this little bumpy business here? Now, believe it or not, they have the exact same number of stitches on each side. And this is a very common thing that happens when connecting granny squares in general. And sometimes you may have been a little bit more relaxed on one square than the other, so the stitches are stretched out a little bit. But this is why placing a border around your work always offers a little bit of refuge from that. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to do a little border and then put a little bit of extra embellishment on each end. So this is the right side up, so you can see that it just seamed together really nicely. And so that's our back. And let's talk about putting a border on this. So this is a fairly quick project. It doesn't take too long. And I found it really fun to do. I think maybe just because the colors were just nice and bright and it reminds me of spring and all that good stuff. So I have this long tail here. I'm going to actually leave it to a certain degree. I'll probably weave some more of it in, but then leave it and work over it. I always like to have stuff, I always like to have a little bit of tails left around just in case at any future time any unraveling may occur. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to work with the right side facing me because I'm working from right to left. So I want my stitches to show nicely there. And I am going to start not quite in the corner. I like to sometimes start a little further back from the corner. So I think I'm going to start right about there. And this is totally a personal choice. You can start right at the corner. Many people really, really live and die by starting always exactly in the corner. I just find sometimes it's easier to bury that starting chain on the sides than it is in the corner for me. So I'm going to start with I've got a slip knot there, and I'm going to do a slip stitch to secure my yarn here. And I'm going to work right over this tail. And all we're going to do is we're going to place one double crochet into each stitch all the way around to create our border. And when we come to our corners, we're just going to repeat the exact same way we've been doing our corners. And that is to have an extended double crochet, a triple crochet, and another extended double crochet. So we're keeping this fairly simple in terms of border and design. So we're going to chain 3 to begin. And we're just going to proceed. So remember, the chain 3 counts as 1, so that's already in this stitch. So we're going to go right into the very next stitch, which is right there, and work our double crochet as usual. And I'm really making sure to pay attention to working over that short tail. So again, there's the next stitch. So go ahead and do that. Whoops. And there is the next stitch. And that is what we're going to do all the way around until we come back to this part here, and we're going to slip stitch to join. So go ahead and do that. But what I'm going to do is I will meet you back when we get close to this center seam here. Okay, just to kind of make sure we address this little dip here. Okay, so go ahead, one double crochet into each stitch, and I'll meet you at the seam. Okay guys, so I'm coming up to the seam here, and it just seems to do this little jog down, which tends to happen. I think what happened was this second one, I think this might have been my first one, I was stitching a little bit looser than this one. And this is a common story that happens with not only granny squares, but a lot of times when you're attaching motifs together. So it's important to actually show that these things do happen. And this is the beauty of borders. Borders can kind of even these things out. And sometimes all it takes is one round or two, and then you can add some embellishments and things like that. I am going to keep my border fairly simple, but right about here, my next stitch is right there, and that's just where the same stitch that equates to this one on the other side, that's where I put the seam in. But because it dips down, what I'm going to do is I am going to do an extended double crochet. So I'm just going to make a stitch that's slightly longer, and I'm doing that to try and keep the height relatively the same because it dips down there. And so now I'm going to go into the next stitch, which is on the other side of this seam, and I'm going to do similar idea, just an extended double crochet. And so that should already start to, see, you can see it's starting to even out that little dip in there. And then I would just continue on, and I'm going to work over that tail there, just doing a regular double crochet into the next stitch, which is taking me onto that next square there. And it's business as usual. Okay, so there you have it. Continue on with your border all the way around, and you know what to do in your corners. We're going to do an extended double crochet, one triple, and one extended, all in that same corner stitch. So go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you when we've done one whole round of our border. Okay, so I've gone ahead and done 3 rounds as a border around my mat. So it's, you can definitely see it's starting to, the sides are starting to straighten out a bit more. But I am going to add a little bit more of an embellishment on each end. I'm just going to come down here a bit. So I've got some of these little bits here left over. So I'm going to use these to just create a little accent here on the edge of each side of the mat. And I'm just going to use simple single crochets because, again, I don't have much left. And I'd like to take advantage of using every single bit of this yarn that I can. And then I will do a few more rows in white just to kind of cap off each end. So I'm going to now switch to using single crochets. And so what I'm going to do is the same thing. I'm going to start with this chamomile color here. And I'm going to start in the corner. So I want you to see, you should be able to find your corners quite easily because each corner is going to have this little shell stitch that consists of an extended double crochet, a triple, and an extended. Now, most people might think they would start right there in the top of the triple, which I did. I experimented a couple of times. The only thing is what happens, this side starts to hang over into the long side, and it kind of makes it look uneven. So we're actually going to start at the top of the extended double crochet right there. And so because I am actually also, once I do my embellishments and do the cap off on each short end, I'm going to come back and do yet another row along the long end in single crochets. In fact, I might actually do half doubles just to kind of create a final edging on that side. But, you know, depends on how I feel it's coming out, what it looks like. You know, this is the beautiful thing about creating your own projects is you can go with how you feel. So we're going to start off with now you can do a slip knot here. Sometimes when I know I'm getting close to the edges of things, in the sense that I want to create a nice finished look, I don't always use a slip knot, believe it or not. So for example, in this case, I'm going to go into that stitch, which is going to be our first stitch. I'm going to insert my hook, and I'm actually going to pull, just loosely place it on the hook and just pull it through gently. So now I am fully aware that nothing is knotted in, and I'm doing this to create a smoother look along the insert. So I am now going to just hold on to that, yarn over, and pull through. So that's going to create a chain one. Again, it's not fully secured, so I'm going to keep my short tail here. I will work over this as we go along here. Okay. And once you start working into it, then the stitches will secure themselves. So this is the chain one, but I'm going to go back into that same stitch, and I'm going to do a single crochet. Okay, and then yarn over and pull through. And there you have it. So that way it gets rid of that little bump that sometimes is created from a slip knot. Just makes it a little more seamless. So now all I'm going to do for this little trim here is I'm just going to insert my hook and do one single crochet all the way across until I get to the other side. Or I should say until I get to the other corner. So I'm only doing this one side. We're not going to go around the corner. So I'm going to stop just once we get right to that last stitch there. Okay, pretty straightforward. So one single crochet into each stitch all the way across. And there you can see my tail is now pretty much gone, hidden in there. And there you have that. Okay. And again, don't worry about that little ridge there because once we do a finishing row on that side, that will work out. So go ahead and do that one single crochet all the way across. I'm just doing one row because again, I'm just basically trying to be as efficient as I can with my yarn. So I'm going to do one row of single crochets, one on each side, which I believe I have just enough yarn left. And then I'm going to come back to this coral color, which this is all I have left of that. And I'm going to do the same thing on the next row one single crochet all the way across. So on each end, once I have my, so you've got your squares done. So on each side here, so see this is the short side, you're going to have a strip of that chamomile color and then another strip of the coral color, just like this is here. Then we're going to do a couple more rows of the white just to finish it off. So I'll meet you there. Okay, so I've done both of my edges here, and so you can see there along the edge that caps it off quite nicely. And I had just enough of each color. In fact, I had a little bit of the coral left over that I will use for another project. But funny enough, the chamomile, I just came about 3 stitches short. So I don't know if you can even tell on the camera, but I just continued with a wee bit of white. And I guess that's the good thing about it happening with the chamomile color is it was light enough that I could blend a little bit of white into those last 3 stitches. And then I had plenty of the corals. So once it's laying down flat, you're not really going to be able to see it. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the fact that I had enough yarn of the coral and the chamomile to do this whole mat. And these smaller balls, I believe, came in 50-gram balls. So 50 grams of the coral and 50 grams of the chamomile. So that's 100 grams of the accent color. And this initial ball here of 400 grams, I would say, probably I've used up half of it. So 200 grams plus 100. So like I had estimated before, it's going to take you approximately 300 grams to do this mat. Of course, if you make it bigger, it will take you more. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cap off each end here with just a little bit more of a white border, but I am going to do this in half double crochets just to give a nice thick ending here, just to do a couple of more, maybe an inch or 2 in length on each side, just to give me because I want mine to be about 40 inches, because I want mine to be 42 inches in length. So I am now going to come back to my white. And now some of you you would maybe say, I'm just going to finish right here with the dark color at the very end, and that's a-okay too. But I am just going to do a couple of more rows on each side. So we're not working in the round anymore, we're working in rows. So again, I am not going to start with a slip knot here. I am just going to insert my hook into the very first stitch there and make sure to get through both of those loops. Sometimes the cotton yarn is a bit fiddly. There we go. Okay. And then I'm just going to pull through and chain 1. And now I'm going to insert my hook. Now I'm going to start right off with a half double crochet. So I am going to yarn over and go back into the same stitch here and work under my tail, pull through, and you'll have 3 loops on the hook. Okay. Now I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to pull through all 3 of these loops. Okay, so it's different than the doubles we've been working on previously. And so that creates a little bit of a shorter, chubbier stitch. So that's it right there. And this is what you're going to do all the way across. Now I've counted that I have 60 stitches across, so I will make sure to have 60 stitches when I get to the end. Okay, so this is all you're going to do. Just yarn over, insert, pull through. 3 loops will be on your hook. You'll yarn over and you'll pull through all 3. Okay, and you're going to continue doing that into each and every single stitch all the way across. Again, if you just want to continue with single crochets, that's perfectly okay too. You might want to continue with double crochets, completely up to you. This is just the way I've chosen to design mine, with half double crochets down at the end. So you can see I'm clear of my short tail now, and see, it just creates a much tighter look there. Okay, gang, you know what to do. I'll meet you at the end of this row. All right, so I've come to the end of my row here. So you can see that these colors are sitting really nicely. And I have decided that I am going to do 4 more rows of the half double crochets on this side. So that's going to give me a total of 5 rows of half double crochets on each end as a nice little solid end to my mat on each of the short sides. So, sorry, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to chain 1 and turn. Now, many times you will hear people chaining 2 for their half double crochets. Now, because these, I'm trying to create a bit more of a finished look, I'm only chaining 1 for any of the stitches because I'm going to work my way back into the same stitch. So, for example, half doubles, you can really see the V's are much more pronounced here, which is one of the reasons why I love working with half double crochets. So I'm only chaining 1. I'm going to yarn over, and then I'm going to go right back into that same stitch, and then work the double crochet, sorry, the half double crochet as usual by pulling through all 3. Okay, so that chain 1 just gets nestled into the actual first stitch. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to work my way back across, and I'm going to have, my goal is to have 5 rows of half double crochets on each side. And you can be done there, and your mat is ready to go. But of course, as an artiste, it's never finished, is it? I am going to do another row of half double crochets on each of the long sides, but I'm only going to do probably, and I say probably because, you know, I always intend to do one thing and then I change my mind as I get there. I'm most likely only going to do 1 row. I may do a second row on each of the long sides, but my focus right now is each of these short sides, just to create a nice little trim of a tighter stitch. And that's it. That's all she wrote. Again, you can just stop once you sew your grannies together even and be done there. Some people just like to keep it super, super simple, and it is completely up to you. But this is how I liked to design mine. So you know what to do, gang, and we'll see you at the end. Okay, guys, and here it is, the springtime bath mat, completely finished. And I ended up doing 5 rows of half double crochets on each end. These were done in single crochet stitches, and then I went around and did an additional 2 borders just to round out the edges of half double crochets. So there you have it, the springtime bath mat, which is our gift of crochet for the month of March. I'm really excited about it. I love these colors. Just gets us perfectly in time for spring, and you are ready to go with your next spring clean project. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment in the comment box below, or you can email us directly at info@crochetcrafty.com. And remember to click that subscribe button so that you stay up to date on all of our tutorials, and if you like watching some of our stitch session conversations. In the meantime, everyone, happy crocheting, and we'll see you on the next session.